This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia. Listen to my radio show, A Tip from Gilbert. Talk, inspiration, and prayer every Monday from 11 a.m. till noon on Houston's gospel leader, KWWJ. 1360 AM and streaming live on kwwj.org. Listen on the legendary KYOK 1140 AM and streaming live on kyokradio.org. KCOH 1230 AM, The Source on Sand Geek Radio 95.1 FM 1460 AM and Aliento Radio 101.7 FM and 1540 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. All right, Houston, you have me, Gilbert Garcia, of a tip from Gilbert, blah, 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 online, ready. And, of course, we're on 5 stations. Of course, everyone, if you're anywhere on the radio, you can probably hear us. Thank you once again for being listeners and being part of our show. And I have here, of course, at-large council position number 1, new city council member, Julian Ramirez. Excuse me. Boy, I'm tongue-tied today. I had dental work recently, and somehow it messed up all my dental work. But no, Councilman, welcome on the show.
Thank you so much.
Now,
great to be here.
Well, I got to do something real quick because, as we all know, there's 2 people that I've been very prayerful for, if I could pray for. And the first, of course, is my sister-in-law. And she, of course, is battling pancreatic cancer. And she's in my house today. And, of course, she's getting a blood transfusion today. And then she'll be leaving tomorrow. And then she'll be back Friday for her treatment. And she's been doing treatment for many months. And, she's just over 50. And, of course, the other one is Sheila Jackson Lee. And Sheila Jackson Lee is one of those icons. Whether you're on this side of her or that side of her, at the end of the day, you have to acknowledge she works hard and she's everywhere. And when you see someone that has been in public service that long and all of a sudden she's now also undergoing treatment. And I don't know what stage she's in her recovery, but I know we had a prayer vigil for her. And I was one of the speakers that were there that said prayers for her and so forth. So I'm going to say this prayer for healing for both of them. So Heavenly Father, I come before you with a heart burdened by illness. You are the great healer, and I place my trust in your loving hands. Grant me strength to endure this trial and courage to face each day. Pour out your healing grace upon my body, mind, and spirit. May your peace, which surpasses all understanding, fill my heart. And in your midst of my weakness, be my strength. I surrender myself to your care, trusting that your love will sustain me. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
So, Councilman, let me just say something to you. I got a chance to meet the councilman on the campaign. As everyone knows, I ran for mayor and I had a blast. I had a blast of all blasts. And we talked about corruption and good government, all those things. And many of the things I talked about, that's what you believe in. And so I felt like I knew you. I felt like we were good friends because even though we weren't running against each other or on the same thing at all, but at the end of the day, I'd see you. And I know these things are important to you.
Absolutely, Gilbert. I would listen to you and love your energy and enthusiasm that you brought. And I would think, you know what? There's very little daylight between your positions on the issues and mine.
I think that's right. Mm-hmm. I think that's right. And I'm proud of that because I'm proud of you. I want to know something. I did not win. And obviously it's the Lord's plan and those, I believe in that. You are victorious. You're now in city council. Are you having fun?
I'm having a blast.
Oh, I love hearing that. I love hearing that.
I've told people many times, Gilbert, I can't believe they pay me to do this. It's so impactful. The issues we discuss are so important. I get to try to help so many people here in Houston. And I'm not limited by district boundaries. I go throughout the city because I'm an at-large council
Yep.
member. So I've been in all 11 districts and meeting all kinds of Houstonians and just enjoying trying to help.
Does that give you the freedom to, like, this is going to sound weird, but I can't think of another way, to take on big issues like public safety or like drainage, rather than just, I got to be part of this street and that street because there's a big pothole there? I mean, does it give you that type of freedom?
Yes. Now, I will say those potholes and those street issues are very important, Gilbert. And so the constituent services, we do as well. We try to help our district, work with our district council members as well. But yes, I love to focus on the big issues like public safety, housing. Houston needs more affordable housing, homelessness, and other issues like that. Transparency in government, ethics in government, topics, big issues that we all believe in. Love working on those.
Wonderful. I want to know. So when did you get bit by the bug? You know, I mean, because you've been a public servant for a long time. I would see you talk about the DA's office and everything. I mean, when you were growing up in middle school, did young Julian out there say, you know, one of these days I think I'm going to run for office? I mean, when did all this happen?
You know, I never had a dream to be a city council member, Gilbert. What I had the dream was to be an attorney and to get into court and to argue against to juries and judges. And I got the chance to do that at the district attorney's office, fighting against violent crime and against gangs and against public corruption for 27 years. The last 4 of which we were looking at civil rights violations committed by officers and jailers. And so when I lost that job at the end of 2016, 52 years old, I'm thinking, how can I continue to be
what's next
and impactful in my life? So I continued prosecuting on a contract basis, and then was convinced to run for office as a judge, right? With public safety being the big issue, still the big issue today. Fell just short, 49.2% of the vote, but that laid the groundwork for the next year I ran for city council, where again, in Houston, public safety is hugely important to the voters. And fortunate to succeed in that. With a lot of help from a lot of different people across the spectrum, I was able to win and got sworn in January.
That's such a great story. And your parents, are they still with us?
They are not, unfortunately. They've both passed. I wish they were here to see this.
They'd be so proud of you. Can you imagine them?
You wouldn't believe, Gilbert. Both of them had only like an elementary school education, right? 7 kids. Each one of us graduated from high school, went to college.
Wow. Each one of you?
Yes.
That is so great.
Have multiple degrees, 2 lawyers, educators, just a successful family based on the work that my parents did. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. What a great story. So when you were there at the DA's office, I mean, what's it like? I mean, you see that on TV, of course, you know, they're the DAs and they're, you know, and you see them in the movies, but is it like a daily grind, or is it so exciting like it is on TV all the time?
Well, you know, that's part of it. There's always a daily grind in every job.
Right? There's got to be.
That's why they call it work. But I had so many experiences, Gilbert, where I got to try to help people, help victims, help survivors find some little piece of justice in the system by bringing a violent criminal to justice, right, after a trial, or to help police officers complete their investigations and bring people to justice. And the last 4 years, as I said, you know, we looked at police shootings, which were a hot topic at that time. And so caught up in all of that was a great experience, as well as, you know, 7 or 8 years of looking at public corruption. Gilbert, which has helped prepare me for this position.
I want to talk about that. We're going to talk about that in 1 second. Before we do, though, so in your 27 years, you were 27 years, right?
That's right.
Okay. How many cases did you think you argued? I mean, actual cases.
Oh, well, thousands, Gilbert. I can tell you that as far as felony jury trials, more than 150.
No kidding.
Not including those cases we tried to judges, and not including those cases I worked on that got negotiated settlements, not including all the grand jury investigations. Yeah, thousands and thousands of cases, Gilbert.
That's amazing. Don't you ever one day just wake up and say, you know what? I feel like I've done a lot of good. Because you've done a lot of good.
I do.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing. It's a privilege to be in positions where you can have an impact on people's lives.
Before
a blessing.
Before we leave the topic of the DA, and I'm not trying to get into the politics of the office as much as I will ask you, do you subscribe to this whole theory that it needs more resources? Are we understaffed there in the DA's office with the attorneys and so forth?
I believe that we are for the number of courts that we have. For a court to run efficiently, you need a full staff of prosecutors because they have hundreds, if not thousands, of cases that they have to deal with. And every day they go to court, every morning they go to court, they've got a large docket. And if you don't have enough prosecutors in the courts, then something's not going to get addressed, right? And so, especially in the misdemeanor courts where my wife works there and she's the head of the misdemeanor bureau.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, how is that where y'all met?
We did. Yeah.
I
Long
mean,
time ago.
it was a match made at court.
Basically,
I mean,
that's right.
well,
I was trying a capital murder case.
wow,
Yeah,
what a great
that's
thing.
right.
So
Yeah.
she's been there how many years?
Oh, more than 30 now.
Oh
Right.
my God. So
Yeah.
she's a real veteran
Right,
too.
Right. And so 8 of the courts that she oversees, run short of a prosecutor, and that makes things difficult. But I think there are shortages throughout that office in different places. So I believe they need more resources there.
And when they're short of a prosecutor, does that mean, okay, prosecutors, we're short, so all of you are going to have to just, buckle up and everyone gets more cases?
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no other thing to do.
Somebody's got to handle them.
Yeah.
And when they're stretched thin, quite frankly, Gilbert, they're not handled well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I mean, I totally get that. Makes perfect sense because, you're like there late at night reading cases and the evidence and you're like, I'm tired and I've got this other one got to start. So then maybe you miss something, but somebody's life is in the balance.
That's right. That's right. And
Or all those victims
right.
that they're trying to get justice.
Right. And when you talk about bringing victim for justice for victims, Gilbert, you also have to look at your judges. And we have judicial elections this fall. And I hope everybody will study these races carefully and find out who are the judges that really prioritize public safety. Because if we have judges who don't prioritize public safety, then you have miscarriages and you have more crime than you should.
I may have to get you on a future show because I'd like to think I'm educated. I'm relatively
You are.
well. I appreciate.
Very much
I'm educated, but here comes the Paul Harvey west of the. Excuse my dental work problems. Rest of the story. Even though I'm educated, I don't know what goes on in all these courts, and I don't even know the differences in some of these courts. And if I don't know, imagine the general public. How can they possibly know? And when you say something as important as what you just said, because it is important, which ones are good and which ones are asleep at the wheel. You didn't say that, but you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
How are we going to know?
It's hard. It's hard, Gilbert, if not impossible. When I ran for judge in 2022, there were 75 judicial positions on the ballot. So my race was only one of 75 judicial positions, not including, all the other races that were on the ballot. And that's almost impossible for a voter to know what to do.
It is.
In every race.
It
and that's
is.
why you have so much undervoting is what it's called. Yeah, when they don't vote all the races.
Because that means so many people voted that day the most, but then as they went down, they just skipped that
They
one.
dropped off.
Very interesting. I haven't really paid attention to that.
That's right.
Hold on. I think we have a caller. We got to. Oh, we lost them. That's okay. No worries. I'm sure they'll call back in. So I think we covered the DA's office and your sort of life there. On the campaign trail, I mean, did you enjoy that? I mean, one of the things I really enjoyed it, and I had a lot of people telling me, "Oh, when you run for mayor, you're going to hate it." I'm like, if you're going to hate it, then you shouldn't be running. You shouldn't serve. I enjoyed it, but one thing that really struck me is how big Houston is, and as an at large, I mean, Houston is enormous.
It is. Yeah. And my first race was a county race, right? So
that was even bigger,
including, yes, almost all of Houston. And then when I ran for city council, I was more prepared,
Yeah.
right? And I had connections established, especially on the east side.
Yeah.
I developed a lot of ties over there, and so built upon that. But to your question, I enjoy very much certain aspects of it, and other aspects I don't. Like, for instance, I'm sure you will identify. I hate to ask people for money, right? Money is essential to a political campaign. Without money in a city as large as Houston, you can't get anywhere, sadly.
Yes.
The part that I loved the most was the one-on-one contact with people where you could look them in the eye, answer their questions, tell them what you wanted to do, and convince them to vote for you. I loved doing that at the doorstep. I did a lot of block walking when I ran. People told me, don't waste your time doing that because Houston is so big you can't do it. I did it anyway. And I did it as much as I could. I love going to community groups and speaking one-on-one with people and dealing with them as human beings.
Well, you hear what they care about.
Absolutely.
Which is going to make you a better person, even if you don't win, but it'll certainly make you a better public servant if you do win.
Right. And if you don't do that, Gilbert, I don't think you can fully understand where
Yeah.
people are coming from and what our issues are.
That's right. That's exactly. Let's hold on. Oh, we have Charlene Johnson. Charlene, are you there?
I am here.
How are
Good
you
morning.
doing? You have
morning.
me, and of course, I don't know if, do you know the councilman, Ramirez, Julian?
Oh yes, I don't know if we met personally, but yes.
Well, I'm introducing you all now. Charlene, how are you feeling now?
Oh, I'm feeling good. I'm I'm recovering from that hard fought
Uh-oh.
race, but I'm feeling good.
Are
feeling real
you,
good.
so when do you take office in those things?
Well, I have to make it through November. I'll be on the ballot, so I'm the Democratic nominee for state rep for District 139.
And so, I mean, are you upbeat? Are you ready to go?
Oh, I'm upbeat and ready to go. I'm ready to go. The swearing in isn't until January 2025.
Now, do you think, of course, as someone who has been a candidate, me, and of course, you never ever will say, well, I don't have an opponent unless you don't have one at all. So,
Right.
I mean, do you anticipate, I mean, is it going to be a tough race, or what are the dynamics for you?
Well, I won't say I won't have an opponent because there's a possibility of an independent getting signatures. They'll have to file signatures to get on the ballot. But it won't stop me from still getting out there meeting voters, because I want to thank the voters who did vote for me. Then I also want to earn the vote and the respect of the people who didn't vote for me. So I'll still be out there on the campaign trail.
Well, then let me give you a minute here. Go ahead and give your thanks to Houston comments right now. And then if you wouldn't mind, weave it in with what are the key dates? When is election day, and when is all those things, and the last day to register to vote? Anything that you want to put out there.
Oh, yes, I am Charlene Ward Johnson, and I am your Democratic nominee for State Rep District 139. I want to thank the voters who did come out for the primary and the runoff to select me and to help me win the victory to be your Democratic nominee so I can go to Austin and fight for the people. And if I didn't earn your vote, I would love to be able to meet with you and you come to your meetings, from the community meetings, to earn your vote again, because we need to work together to continue to select other Democrats as well to continue to fight.
Well,
and the election is in November the 5th.
Can I ask you a question?
Go.
So, Charlene, what part of our area in Houston is District 139?
Yes, it's North Houston. It's all North Houston. It starts at 610, where you go to Oak Forest, up to Acres Home, Inwood Forest, all the way up to Spring and Old Oaks, which is all the way up 45 on the other side of 1960.
And are you an incumbent, or are you trying to replace someone who is retired?
Well, this seat is currently held by State Rep Jarvis Johnson.
I see. Who ran for senator?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So he didn't seek re-election. So this is an open seat.
Very good. Well, we are looking forward to you winning and serving, and of course, coming on our show. So please,
yes,
I thank you. Give us your website and all that one last time, everything.
It is electcharlene.com. Electcharlene.com. You'll get more information about my campaign, my priorities, my platform, and how to become a part of my campaign. So I look forward to working with you, Gilbert, and other city council members as well, so we can continue to make Houston great.
Amen. Well, thank you for calling in.
Best of luck, Charlene.
Thank you so much. Have a good Monday.
You too. You know, this station was the whole reason for this show was I was just tired of all the negativity out there. I'm just tired of it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start a show. And then people thought, what are you going to do that for? I said, I'm just going to do it. And I started with one station. Then like a couple months later, I got another. And then all of a sudden I got 5. And I think I'm going to get 1 or 2 more. I'm working on that now. And of course, all the social media platforms. And what's interesting is, you know, I've done a lot of these food giveaways and things. And when I give out my card, people say, I listen to your show.
Well, Gilbert,
it's a cool thing.
You know, if this bond stuff that doesn't work out, I think you've got
I think
radio.
so too. I'm gonna do it. And you know what's funny is a lot of people call in, and I remember one person would call in every episode. I mean, every episode for probably 3 months. And that was Jolanda Jones.
Oh,
and then sure enough, she
I
wins.
know Jolanda.
Yeah, and then sure enough, she wins. And then all of a sudden, and I see her, and of course, we're great friends now. And another person, I think she probably called the most. And Charlene calls a lot. I have a lot of judges call in, but it's really meant to be something for people to speak out and to talk about things. So let's go back to something else.
All right.
I want to brag on you because it's very rare, especially you've only been in office, a couple of months. Yeah. And already you've had an impact because you're very thoughtful. You will question the mayor when it's the right thing, and you will support him when it's the right thing. You're supposed to do that.
Yes.
But what's very interesting, it's very rare for someone, Houston, you should know, as a new council person, meaning they've never been an elected official before, to all of a sudden get some things through and done. And I know that you've had two things that you were proud of, and you put them on, and you got them both passed. Why don't you talk about that?
You bet, Gilbert. We just went through our budget process.
Yep.
We adopted a budget for next fiscal year, which is $6.7 billion with a B, $1 billion. A lot of money, Gilbert. Every year we spend a lot of money, and we want to spend it wisely and efficiently. Public safety is huge on everybody's minds. That's an issue that I campaigned hard on last year. I talked about increasing the number of officers patrolling our streets and reducing the backlog at the crime lab. And so during this budget process,
and you know about that. See, a lot
Absolutely.
of other people couldn't say anything because you know about the crime lab and you've worked with them. So keep going. I think that's important.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Houstonians do. I mean, how often do you see police in your neighborhood? When you call the police, how long does it take for them to get there? Response times were the worst they've been in decades. And so as part of this budget process, they typically asked for 5 police academy classes, and there are about 75 cadets in each class. What we found from looking at the stats, Gilbert, is that in 2 of the last 4 years, Houston has actually lost more officers through attrition than we had graduate from the police academy. So we're barely keeping up.
So we're really shrinking.
Yes. And we have fewer officers, and I'm sure you heard this last year, than we did 20, 25 years ago, right? And that's not acceptable. We can do better. And so as part of this process, I offered a budget amendment to add a 6th academy class, right? To add another group of hopefully 75 officers that we can graduate and sort of stem the tide of losses and improve response times and improve our public safety effort.
And you got it passed.
Got it passed unanimously, Gilbert. Fortunately, the mayor supported it strongly as well. Happy about that. And we were able to get that passed.
That's so great. So let me ask you this. An academy class, because of course you hear about it and so forth, but I don't really know about it. So if there's class A, how long does that class last before they graduate and then they join the force?
I believe the academy is a 6 to 9 month process, Gilbert. So they're in there for a long time. They take a lot of coursework. There's a lot of other training that goes involved. There are a lot of physical fitness requirements that they have to meet. And by the end of the academy program, they are educated, they are fired up, they are physically fit, and we're ready for them to get out on the streets.
And is it, when you say, all right, I got a 6th class, is it away from the cost, because there's a cost to it all, is it easy to get enough applicants to be a 6th class?
No, it is
that's
not.
got to be hard too, right?
No, it is not. And so what we're asking HPD to do is to stretch, and we're asking the community to stretch as well, and to publicize our efforts to recruit good men and women to be Houston police officers. In fact, just this Saturday, I attended right out here at Discovery Green, the HPD Summer Career Expo, and we had a lot of potential, or a lot of applicants come through, fill out the forms and paperwork to get set up for an interview. Very exciting process. Chief Satterwhite was out there. Commander Khan was out there, who heads up recruiting, and the mayor was out there. So happy to see them and so many Houstonians come out to try to begin that process of becoming a Houston police officer.
I think that is great. And then, of course, I think we have another caller, but I want to go to your second one too. Is there a David Contreras on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
David, you got me, Gilbert Garcia, the Tipton Gilbert, with, of course, Councilman Ramirez.
And you got me too, David.
Yes.
My friend David.
Oh, good. David, what do you got, my friend? What do you got?
Oh, I've got some exciting news for Houston.
Let's go.
And LULAC, and that is on June the 28th in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the LULAC national convention, we will be inducting 3 past national presidents from Council 60 into the LULAC Hall of Fame.
No kidding. And
They are John J. Herrera, who remarkable. He was involved in a couple of court cases like Texas Hernandez versus Texas and the Delgado versus Bastrop case. And then we've got Judge Alfred Hernandez and Felix Tejerina.
wow.
We're also inducting a feminist from the 1930s who was the first female board member of LULAC. And so all of that will be occurring on Friday, June the 28th in Las Vegas. We're excited because we're bringing in family members for John J. Herrera and Alfred Hernandez. And we will also be bringing in as a guest a lady by the name of Isabel Rivera, who was the first teacher of the Little School of the 400, which influenced Lyndon B. Johnson with the Project Head Start program.
That is fantastic. Tell us real quick. Where's the for those that are not aware, go back to League of United Latin American Citizens, if you could. So LULAC, when was it founded, if you recall, and you know all the great things it's done, just so the listeners here, because you got a lot of listeners that are listening. Just tell us a little bit about it, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm here with my beautiful wife, Millie, who's the president of LULAC Council 688.
Hello, Millie.
Millie, how
Hello,
are
Gilbert.
you?
I'm doing great, and thank you for always supporting us. We love you, and we pray for your success.
And Council Member Ramirez is there
Oh.
too.
Thank you, council member, for being there. We're so proud of you.
Thank
Wonderful.
you, Millie.
Well,
You
Millie-
and David do great work, so thank you all.
Amen. Amen. Really, real quick, just for those listening, because you got a lot of listeners from all over. But remember, you've got leading gospel stations. You got all kinds of stations here on this show. You know, League of United Latin American Citizens. It was founded in what? In the 1920s, right? In late 20s?
Yeah, yes, it was. And the LULAC, or the League of United Latin American Citizens, is the equivalent of the NAACP
Right.
for Latinos. And it was founded in 1929 and through, I think, a consolidation of 3 other organizations. And the main purpose was to fight discrimination and violence and for the rights of which was predominantly Mexican Americans at that time. When it was first formed, it was only citizens were allowed and not Mexican nationals. But LULAC has done some incredible work over the years, beginning in the 1930s, dealing with some school segregation cases. That was, by the way, that was not Juan. I forget the name of it, but it was in Del Rio. But finally, I think in California, in the case of Mendez versus Westminster, they made segregation of Mexican Americans illegal, unconstitutional. Although that integration didn't occur for many years, and then the same type of case was occurred in Texas in Bastrop, and even though that was one, it took another 30 years before we actually had integration. The other major case was the Hernandez versus Texas. And that is, we're celebrating the 70th anniversary. I know the Texas Bar Association, the Hispanic Issues, recently had a celebration and a presentation in Dallas last week. And I believe more will be had. Another significant event was a Little School of the 400, which a program, a wonderful program that taught children 400 words to help them pass from kindergarten to the first grade. It was so successful that 49 students out of 50 passed, when in the past the failure rate was like 70%.
Wow.
And then after that, in 1963, John J. Herrera convinced John F. Kennedy to visit at the Rice Hotel with LULACers. It was the first time in history that a sitting U.S. president addressed the Latino group. And he came because of what occurred in 1960 with the Viva Kennedy program, which helped get him elected. I believe the electoral votes in Chicago and I forget where else got him into office. So he supported the LULAC cause. Unfortunately, he was killed the next day. A couple of other things that I'll mention very, very quickly.
But before you do that, I just want to go back to this because I don't know if this is folklore or not. And by the way, my first LULAC meeting when I was in high school, my dad would take me, was in council number 1 in Corpus Christi, Texas, where the birth of LULAC. But I don't know if this is folklore or not. They say that Jackie Onassis Kennedy addressed the LULAC crowd in Spanish. Is that true?
That is true. We actually have a recording of that. We have a number of historical websites dedicated to LULAC. Let me give them to you real quickly. One is called jfklulac.com. And on that website, there's incredible history, maybe about 100 pictures of the event from 1963. We actually have 3 videos of the event, one in black and white that shows John Kennedy's speech and Jackie's speech in Spanish. We also have a video that's in color, beautiful, beautiful video, but no sound. Another website that I urge you to the listeners to look at is a website called lulacnewsletters.com. And we have recently upgraded this website to include not only 230 newsletters, and we'll be adding another 40 very soon, but videos of significant LULAC events going back to 1957. And we're going to use this as a baseline as we go into approach our centennial, which will occur in 5 years.
Oh, wow. What a great deal. I didn't mean to cut you off. You had another thing you were going to say. I'm going to give you that last one, and then we're going to roll on.
Okay.
No, you had one more thing before I cut you off. I didn't mean to do that.
Okay, I guess it's my age. I think I forgot what I was going to say.
You were just going into it, and you were about to transition. And I said, hey, before you transition, I wanted to see if this is folklore or not. And did she speak? Because you were going to go to something else after the whole Kennedy and speaking, et cetera.
Yes, I was going to add to what you said about Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi is council number 1. It was the first council, and it had the first national president, Ben Garza. And so we hope to make Corpus Christi a big part of our 100-year celebration. The last comment I have is I want to thank Council Member Ramirez for all the help that he has given us to disseminate our history
My pleasure.
Working with Houston Public Library. Meeting.
Was he involved with that?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I need you to tell everyone that. Number 1, to brag on him, but number 2, for the people of Houston to know that this nonsense goes on sometimes. Because I know you were just pounding your head against the pavement when you brought it to my attention. Go through that whole thing, and then let's go to the councilman on what he did, because I think that's great.
Yeah, what we found out is about 3 years ago, we found out that there was about $19 million that was appropriated to build a Latino research center and library comparable to the African American library in the Gregory School. And so for 2 or 3 years, we asked for an update and how much money was going to be applied this year, when we were going to have a groundbreaking, when will the facility be completed. And so what we've decided to do was put more emphasis on the electronic digitization side. Millie and I began this effort about 11 years ago, and we grew the digitization and collaborated with Houston Public Library to worked with Michael Iselli. Michael Iselli on the library side developed an incredible collection, which is probably the best in the United States, we on the other side used that information and worked along with LULAC, Arte Publico Press, MACRE, which is the Mexican American Civil Rights Institute, and many of the professors in Mexican American Studies here to develop some fairly incredible resources. And many people don't even know that these resources exist. Now, we did a couple of years ago, get the library to add some of our websites on the library, but what we have a problem with is showcasing this so that it's prominently displayed and people know that it exists. Today,
but what was all the hubbub though? What did the councilman help us with?
The council members helped us get attention, okay, to begin making progress, such as begin digitizing some significant collections, such as the Felix and Angela Morales collection, which is being digitized right now, helping us digitize the Viva magazine collection, which, I could spend an hour talking about that. Mm-hmm. And a collection, the Felix Tejerina collection. So significant progress has been made. However, we've noticed some that we're going backwards in a couple of cases. One of those, I'll be speaking with the interim director, Cynthia Wilson today, about is that they put image watermarks on all the photos, which and when I asked about it, they said, well, that's to eliminate monetization and to eliminate people from putting these on websites. But I would think that they would be thrilled that we are sharing this information and trying to disseminate it to the public. Our goal, Gilbert, is to do some outreach to make people know that these resources exist and are available, and to disseminate this information and its website resources to educators and students, and eventually into the classroom and textbooks.
That is so great. Let me ask you this, and Councilman, I don't know if you know, so that 19 million, are we going to get a building and stuff? Are we going to get it or no? I mean, where is all that?
It's in the design phase. And so quite frankly, Gilbert, when I got into office, I had concerns about community engagement in planning that thing. I had concerns about the site. However, we had a town forum back in March, myself and the other two Hispanic council members, Mario Castillo and Joaquin Martinez, out there. And we had about 200 people come out and look at the site and view renderings of what it's going to look like and so forth. And I think that group of people was excited about it, and so the process is continuing, even though it is right across from a concrete batch plant, right? And right on the bayou. I'm told there's not a danger of flooding, that particular spot is never flooded because it's high ground. But it seems like the public, once we have done this engagement, really does want it built there. I don't know what David's feelings are. And so it continues in the design phase, and maybe they'll break ground at some point.
I mean, the most important thing is don't lose the money, because if 19 million was allocated, we get, because, these things this is why we need you there at City Council. These things have a way of 19 million in a couple of years. Now it's down to 12. Where did the other, 7 go? I don't know.
Yes.
And, somebody was doing studies about studies. And I don't know. And that's why, boy, let's get that done. What else do you got real quick before we sign off here with you, David?
Just to let you know that LULAC is working to create even more resources, and we hope to do more interviews of Latino leaders in Houston, as well as the LULAC leadership, and to expand that website and really and collaborate with the Harris County Hispanic Heritage Cultural Commission, which I'm the chair of now.
Oh, how wonderful!
And so we have people like Mary Ramos and Dr. Michelle Tobar. And Justice David Medina.
Oh, how great!
Our board.
Great. Justice Medina is a good man. Of course, his wife is now a new judge, right?
That's right.
Because
Pamela Medina.
She's good people. Well, I'm going to sign off. Of course, I got to give my hats off to the hardest working one there, and of course that's Millie. So Millie, thank you for being on the show. No, I'm not going to let David act like he knows all this, because I can hear you in the background saying, "Wait, don't forget this, don't forget those, don't go for this."
Yeah,
Millie, we know. Don't worry, we know. Thank you, dear. Thank you all for being on the show. I'm going to jump to the next caller. We have 2 more callers. I want to make sure I get them all in before we go to a couple more things. Is there a Brian on the line? Brian, are you there? Brian. And then we'll get to a Linda. Linda, I think you're there. Don't jump. I know you've been holding a little bit. Brian, are you there? If not, let's take Linda. Brian, you there? Brian.
Yes. Hi.
You got
Good
me
morning.
a tip from Gilbert. What do you got? You got for me and Councilman Ramirez.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Going back to the police for a second. I recently heard a highlight or a clip from one of the Trump rallies, and he was talking about how the police sometimes, when they get in trouble, they lose their jobs, they lose their home, they lose their family, sometimes their pension and whatnot. And he talked about giving police immunity, complete full immunity, and that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I just wanted your take on what do you think about when police do violate a person's civil rights? Like, what should the consequence?
Very interesting. That's a good
Well,
question. You know, I had not heard about that, the desire by the Trump administration or him about immunity. So that's interesting and new.
Sure. Let me say this. There's the criminal side and there's the civil side. So on the civil side, they seek money damages largely. On the criminal side, of course, they'll take your freedom away, put you in jail or on probation. So on the criminal side, there is no immunity that police officers have from prosecution when they commit a crime. There are legal defenses that they can try to invoke to avoid getting convicted. They're largely the same as the legal defenses that any citizen would have when they use force in self-defense. So that's criminal. No immunity from prosecution on the criminal. Now, on the civil side, there is a doctrine that's called qualified immunity that protects cities and police officers based upon prior Fourth Amendment rulings. That is the same as it's been for decades. And I'm not familiar with the candidates' remarks or thoughts on that, but that's a legal doctrine that is in place. It is possible to hold cities and police officers civilly liable for actions involving excessive force, but it is, I will admit, difficult because of the qualified immunity doctrine.
Very interesting.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up.
You bet.
Thank you.
Well, Brian, thank you. That's a very interesting point. Thank you for calling in. We have 2 more I want to get in before we go to our next topic, because we have a lot of things to cover with the councilman here. What was it? Was there a Linda on the line? I saw a line of Linda. Was there a Linda on the line?
Linda? Hello?
I think we're trying to learn how to get those things patched in quicker, but we're working on that. Linda, if you're there, holler out.
Hello?
Okay, let's keep going there,
Yeah,
Councilman.
I'll transfer you.
Oh, actually, we're being transferred right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, here we go. Linda.
Linda's on the line.
Linda. Remember that thing? And maybe, my kids will always tell me that from, I don't know if it's a TikTok or whatever. Linda, listen. Do you know that one? There's this
No.
little kid that's talking to his mom, and he's like this tall, and her name is Linda. And he's like, listen, Linda, listen. Linda, does anybody ever tell you that?
Well, more often than not, it's my husband now.
Come on, Linda.
How did we guess?
but there are so many. Okay, I'm going to dispense because I know you're short of time. So
No,
let me
go.
just dispense with the pleasantries.
Go.
And let me say to the councilman, and I do understand that the council cannot do anything with this man who is uncertified, wants people to pass a test that takes you on a path to nowhere. Name the test that you need, name the university you need to pass STAR to get into. The whole state of Texas, 70% of the states in the United States test better on their standardized tests than Texas.
So to point it out that it's the Black and Hispanic students is wrong, because the whole state doesn't test as well. Then he juggles the scores, saying that he got a 1% after he foisted and forced our students into that NES imbecile program, kids that are going to pass the test anyway. And I want to end by saying I had advanced placement tests. Children that passed the advanced placement test in Spanish and children that have passed the advanced placement test in English. And they went to the university, and children that passed the math test, the THEA, and what did they say about these tests to our children? They said they didn't pass high enough, and they stuck them into remedial courses, and they're still doing it today. They were doing that back when I ran around the school and paid when they ran out of money. Everyone in my honors class, in my, what was it? It was advanced what was it called then? I think it was advanced, yeah, placement or whatever.
Let me get the context here, Miss Linda. Are you a teacher?
Yes, I'm a retired teacher.
Okay, and so you're talking obviously about the superintendent?
I am talking about the man who claims to be a superintendent.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you.
He has no credential to be a superintendent.
And
he takes over 300 schools because less than 12% are flunking.
Is that, listen, I'm with you. Is that right? He has no credentials?
And then tells us that it's, the Black and Hispanic. No, it was not. The test scores never were the thing. I keep saying that. If it was something, then why don't they have the whole state of Texas under it? Because the whole 70% of this country, of the states in this country, test better than us. We always are in the lower quadrant in the state of Texas. I'm sorry to get so emotional about this.
No, listen.
I've been out there. He's firing your Hispanic teachers. I warned them because this isn't my first rodeo. I retired under Gail Fallon, and this woman, and they're under Jackie Anderson, who I think you had her on. Who, never mind. She comes out of New Orleans.
Well, I've had
all of the people that went and spoke against that man at the board and what he was doing to the schools has been fired. They've been forced into resignation. And who's the largest employer in the city of Houston? Houston ISD.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be BFI. Now it's Houston ISD. City of Houston, isn't it? And you can put a policeman on every corner. Your problem is going to be getting jobs, getting transportation in here. We need a decent public transportation system. I come from New York. I don't know what they call that mess.
I understand.
Out there. Well, and I know you're proud of your metro, but it won't beat the New York subway.
Well, you got that right, but there are lots of reasons for another discussion because I'm with you. I want to break something down, Miss Linda. Stay with us, okay? So first of all, my kids are grown. I have one, and of course we had one that went through public schools the whole time, and then our others, we wanted to have a faith-based education, so they went through Catholic schools because we're Catholic, of course. But we're very involved. I've coached 40 seasons of soccer, and a lot of my kids are from the public schools, so I'm very familiar, and I've gone to things like the Huckleberry Bash at Mark Twain, all those things. What was going on before he came? Because I don't know enough to know, but I know I've heard that the governor's been talking about for many years. If we don't do something,
well, when he comes in. Wait,
let me finish. Don't forget your thought. But let me finish my thought, and then I'm gonna be quiet. I thought that he said something like, "Well, if we don't do, I don't know exactly what it was, better scores or something, the state's gonna have to intervene." And that went on for many years. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yes, it did, because you had your Texas Education Agency change, and we had COVID. And so what they did was that they leaked over when he takes over 2023, the letter of 2023. First off, when you get to the TEA website, pull down the letter of 2023 that they sent to parents. You take over 300 schools because people are arguing. A board is going to argue. A council person is. Sometimes you're going to be able to have polite discussions. Sometimes you're going to have arguments. That's not the reason to take 200,000 kids and put them into your higgledy-piggledy system, NES, that NES program, which has not been proven. And I wish that, Charlene Johnson, she's coming out of running. She was
right.
Houston Community. Yeah.
Yep.
But she's got a no ball chance winning right now. Believe it or not, with Mayor Whitmire, who was very, very supportive of teachers, always has been. And education is a nice thing, but education and it's wonderful, but it does not necessarily put you on the yellow path to a yellow brick road to success. A lot of other things pack into it, even test scores.
Well, this could be having you here could be a whole episode, which I'm happy to do with you if you would be on my show. I think the key thing is, as I have other callers, is this, Miss Linda, and then that way we can maybe ask the councilman a question, which is, we are here, for lack of a better word, for better or worse, meaning the state has done things in their authority, and now we have the superintendent. It seems to me, and I'm with you. I saw an article about a teacher that got Teacher of the Year like 1 or 2 years ago, and she was fired. I mean, how could that be, right? But
please, it's left and right.
I know.
Left and right. All the kids are community voices for public education, but they're newbies.
I'm totally with you. But here's where
old people, they don't know what they're going to do. And I told her they're going to fire you. You're going to.
Yep.
Oh no! Not if I speak before the board. Well, every last one of them were forced to resign. And how they do it? Yeah, they do it nefariously. Another thing is, he got a 1%, which is not. He said he was going to be out of here in 2 years. Now he's gotten that $400,000. Look, $400,000 would buy me. Y'all have to pray for me and take me before my pastor to get rid of this $400,000.
Miss Linda, Miss Linda, you know what? I would have a blast with you sometime. I have 2 other callers.
Okay.
No, listen.
But that's what I want our councilmen, because it is the mayor who can say, look at what you're doing to this city. And over what? You took it over from 10% schools. 1% is not enough for you to ruin the whole city for a test that goes nowhere. And then he juggled the books on them. He put in those advanced kids. There's kids that do well on tests. That doesn't make you a great citizen. Get a perfect score on SAT, and they turn down 1,400, as I would have on my board back in the Blackboard days, for my kids to understand that it is what education you get is where is it going to take you?
Yep.
Where can you go with it? Not just because you want to watch a football game or go to a prestigious university.
Let's do this.
Make the prestige.
Miss Linda, I'm going to have you another time. I hope you call in again. I hope you're still listening, though. I'm going to sign off.
I call in all the time. You say that all the time, but that's okay.
Which part do I say?
You say, I hope you call in again. You helped me on my girlfriend, but unfortunately, she died. Her house with the general land office.
Yeah. Let's
her home with the GLO.
Right.
And now, as we listen to the councilman, your mayor Whitmire always stood with teachers.
Yes.
And they did everything to change his district to take him to.
Well, Miss Linda, I don't mean to cut you off. Stay listening, because we got 2 more callers. I'm going to cut you off because I'm going to move to the other 2 callers. But before I do, move to them, I'm going to let the councilman just give us. Why don't I phrase it this way? What are your thoughts on what's happened with HISD and where's it? What's it going? Where's it going? And I guess, Miss Linda, how can we be positive here? I guess my view is, what's the litmus test for bringing back local control? Is there one, or what should it be? So, Miss Linda, thank you for calling. Yes, thank you for calling. Calling again.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Councilman.
You bet.
Okay.
And thank you, Linda, for your career as an educator. I had 3 sisters who were teachers, and They never got paid enough, and they worked very, very hard. So I appreciate you. Now, with regard to HISD, council invited Mike Miles, the superintendent,
right.
to come and speak to the Economic Development Committee last week. He did. He made a presentation. We listened. We asked questions. I asked him a number of questions, one of which was, hey, when are we going to see you gone? Basically, they've announced across the board increases in test results for the first year. And I asked him that question. He says, well, if we have 2 more years like this, improving test scores, then they can begin the transition to go back to an elected board. And so that, I think, is the best we can hope for. The takeover is a done deal. I mean, it's reality. It's not going to go away until they achieve the results according to test scores and whatever other measures they use and start that transition. So glad to see we're on the road to getting our elected board back. Now, I will say, Miles has a lot of improvement needed on the communication front and on the transparency front. He passed a budget a couple of weeks ago on a razor thin 5-4 vote. That's his own board.
That's his own board. That's his
own board.
That's the governor's. That's the
5-4.
governor's group.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And they talked to some of the folks who voted against that budget, and they said, you know, we had questions that went unanswered.
Wow.
And not going to vote for something like that without getting the answers we deserve. And that's one of the things, transparency, that I'm fighting for at City Council, Gilbert, as a coincidence. But yeah, you know, Mike Miles has a lot of improvement to do. I wish him well. I wish the students at HISD well. Houston goes as HISD goes. As you know, Gilbert, Houston has not grown very much in the last few years.
That's right.
When you see reports of growth, it's in the area, right? A lot of folks are coming to Montgomery County, Fort Bend County, and the surrounding counties, not to Houston, right? So if we improved our schools and we improved our public safety and we addressed our flooding risk, Gilbert, you would see growth come back to Houston more quickly than we're seeing it right now.
And we've got to, because that's the beginning of the end of the city if we don't grow.
That's right.
I mean, let's go. We got 2 more calls already. Boy, we're running out of time. There's so much more to cover. I'm going to have it back, I think.
Yeah,
Let's go back to that. Jerome. Is there a Jerome here?
Hi, I'm here.
Jerome, you got me, Gilbert Garcia, of A Tip From Me, although it's a tip from Gilbert, with Councilman Julian Ramirez, who's at large, position number 1.
Welcome,
Go
Jerome.
for it.
Hi, okay. So earlier in the show, Gilbert mentioned not knowing what's going on in the courts. And I know that can be really confusing for me too. In my mind, that brought up bail reform. So I'd like to ask the councilman what his thoughts and what exactly that is, because I hear so many mixed things about it. Like, is it good? Does it allow for people to be released early? Like, I just get confused on what that is.
Albert, thank you for the call. So I'll phrase it this way: what is going on? Is the crime wave about people just getting let out? What's really going on?
Well, okay, to address his question, bail reform generally is the idea that someone should not be in jail simply because they can't, they're too poor to bond out. Whereas if a rich person were jailed, they wouldn't have any trouble getting out. All right, so that's generally what bail reform is in a nutshell.
And who can be against that?
Well, no one, but
Okay.
where it goes off the rails, Gilbert, is when you see judges not taking public safety into account. Like, for instance, the rules should be different for someone who's charged with a violent crime.
Oh,
Let's
yes.
say
Okay.
murder.
Okay.
You know, in that circumstances, yes, they are presumed innocent. We want to protect those rights. However, the law allows for the circumstances of the offense and the nature of the crime and the person's criminal history to be considered in setting bail. And too often our judges have not given enough priority to those considerations. And what you saw back in 2022 when I was running was hundreds of people were killed by folks who were released on lower bonds for violent crimes.
Well,
that's part of the reason I ran back in 2022.
Well, are there guidelines for some judge to stay on the rails? I mean, or they can just say, okay, for you, I'm going to do $100. I mean, do
Very
they have
few.
time?
Very few, Gilbert. A lot of it is within the discretion of the judge, which is why it is so important to elect good judges. Do your homework. Support those judges who will support public safety.
You know, we're going to have to come. Do we have one more card or no? We have one more. This is our last caller. I know. Listen, guys, I'm so glad everybody called in. We got one more, and we're going to already run out of time. We didn't even get to talk all about the things I wanted to talk about, which means we're going to have to bring them back.
I'll come back.
Jason,
Anytime.
what do you got? Jason, what do you got? Jason,
Yes.
what do you got?
Yes. First, I just want to thank Councilman for being on today.
You bet.
And just to make it quick, because I know we're running out of time, you spoke briefly about transparency within the city of Houston. And reading recently, because all you see on the news is about the water bills and how those are out of control. And one of the things that came up was an $80 million grant that the city, the previous mayor gave to the city to help with fixing the pipelines and everything. And it turned in that the one person that was involved, the one person that basically had power over everything, gave it to her brother and had all kinds of other deals that were, not in the best interest of the city and its citizens. So my question is, what can we do to put stopgaps so one person doesn't have carte blanche over all this money and have some sort of transparency so we can make sure it goes to the right spot, to the right people with fair contracts? I'll close and hang up.
We need a deep dive into city government, and we have 2 management studies going on that council has approved where we're going to start that process, right? So that individual had no second pair of eyes looking over what she was doing. And so she was able to get away with stealing millions from the city, unfortunately. Wow. But we need to do a deep dive and just keep the pressure on. We've had 2 publicized prosecutions recently. So kudos to the mayor for going after this corruption. More is in store. So stay tuned on that front, Gilbert.
As you know, well, I don't know, we may be out of time. If we have 1 minute, what we're going to do, we're going to bring the councilman back. His chief of staff is somewhere here. I'm going to talk to her. We're going to need him back because we didn't get to talk about flooding. We didn't get to talk about public safety. We didn't get to talk about corruption. We didn't get to talk about all the things we wanted to talk about. So we're going to have you back.
Absolutely. Love to come back anytime. Just tell me.
Can you believe it's already been an hour?
Time flies.
Is it crazy?
Yeah.
Because we've had enough of me. That's your camera. I want you to say what you want to say to Houston and just let them know. You got about 45 seconds.
Houston, thank you for electing me, giving me the privilege of serving you as a council member. I tell people all the time, I can't believe they pay me to do this, to work on important issues, to try to achieve solutions, to try to help people. That's why I got into this. I didn't get into it for the money or the power. I wanted to do something positive with the rest of my life. And I've still got plenty of living to do. And this was a good way to do it, I thought. So to bring together my talents and my experience to try to do some good for the city of Houston, thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Woo! There you go. Let's cut it up. Cue the music. This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia. Listen to my radio show, A Tip from Gilbert. Talk, inspiration, and prayer every Monday from 11 a.m. till noon on Houston's gospel leader, KWWJ. 1360 AM and streaming live on kwwj.org. Listen on the legendary KYOK 1140 AM and streaming live on kyokradio.org. KCOH 1230 AM, The Source. On San Geek Radio 95.1 FM 1460 AM. And Aliento Radio 101.7 FM and 1540 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then.